Hi everyone, Colin here. I'm going to carry on some coding in Scratch. This is taking Scratch a little bit further, and it's using one of the new learning paths that Code Club have introduced. Let's get going. So the last couple of weeks I've been taking around the islands on Code Club World. I have already done previously videos for the island of Scratch level 1. I also did some Python stuff recently, and I wanted to carry on doing some Scratch stuff. So I'm going to pick up on what will eventually be level 2 for Scratch, but it's not on the island yet, but I know where it is. So if you do a search for Raspberry Pi projects, and I'll put a link in the instructions, and on the top of the page now they've got the all new paths, and the projects under the introduction ones are ones that I've done recordings for previously, and those are the projects that fall off of the Scratch level 1 island. So if you were to take the next blob on the island, it's Space Talk there, but it's actually this project here that they're doing. And I've done videos for Amateur Library Service already on those, and I'll try and find the link for those in case you wanted to revisit them. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to all new paths, and I'm going to take the, let's call it intermediate level. It's just called More Scratch, and it's using broadcast decisions and variables. And I'll put a link for this page in the instructions as well. And today's project is going to be about broadcasting spells. So broadcasting spells, we're going to make an application where a wand will turn sprites into toads and make them shrink and grow. So this is what we'll be making today. We're making a game where we're going to create a wand, and we're going to make characters shrink and add some background noise to that, and grow, and we're going to turn sprites into toads, and then we're going to make it so we can untoad them. And I just noticed something here that's very interesting, is that part of the headline on here is broadcasting and receiving messages a bit like call and response patterns, particularly interesting in Ghanaian music. And there's a little 18-second
Pata pata, seniwa de de de, seniwa. A pata pata, seniwa de de de, seniwa. Hey, pata pata, seniwa de de de, seniwa.
So that's from a good friend of mine, Kwame Bagoji Hume. He's from African Activities. It's based in Totten, and I've done some drumming classes with him. But the call and response is typically traditional in the a leader will make a call, the initial words, and then the rest of the audience, if that's the right word, or the rest of the group will then respond by repeating the key phrase when they hear the call. So we're going to make a program where we can toad character sprites and untoad them, shrink them, and make them grow. Let's get going. So the first thing we're going to use is we're going to open the starter project. So there's a link in the project here. Okay, and I should put a link for the project in the instructions as well. And as I've done on previous occasions, I'm going to separate my windows. I'm going to press Windows right arrow key to make my my programming page on one side, and then I'm going to do Windows left arrow key and then squidge that over as far as it will go, so that I've got as much room for my coding, and just a little slip on the left hand side for the instructions. So we've got the woodland scene here. Oh, and the next thing we need to do is we need to clone that, clone this project. So I'm going to sign in, and then I'm going to clone a project. It's called remixing. So remixing means I've got a copy of this project now in my own store, and I'm going to call it Colin's version. Right, so now this project is going to be just purely for me, and I'll share the link for this as well with you. So we're going to need a wand to cast a spell. Actually, before we do that, let's just have a look at on our stage. We've got a stage with this backdrop on. We've got a fairy, and the fairy has, the fairy's got 3 costumes. So that's going to be how we turn the fairy into a toad. I've got a button that's got shrink written on it, and there's no code on that. Another one with grow, another one with toad, and another one with untoad. So that's those 4 buttons down here in the corner. So we've got 4 sprites being made as buttons, and we've got a fairy that we're going to do some work with. So let's add a new sprite to our project. So I'm going to go down here, choose a sprite, and in here I'm just going to type a wand and add which wand you want for your project. Well, let's pick that one. So that's my wand now in my project. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add this block of code here that makes the wand go to the mouse pointer and then goes to the front layer, so that we'll always be able to see the wand. So that's an event when the green flag is clicked, and we want forever. Go to mouse pointer, go to mouse pointer, and then go to front layer. Oh, not that block. Go to, it's different. There it is down the bottom there. Go to front layer. So now I press the green flag. Now the wand is tracking the mouse as I move the mouse around. I like to test as I go along, so let's just press the stop button, because I think that gets to be a little bit annoying. There's a button up here that I can save it, so that saves the project as I go along. If you like to tick things off, if you can put little ticks on those and these side panels go grey. So the next instruction is make the wand bigger and tilted like you're really using it. So we're going to change the size to 200%. So with the wand clicked, there's a size option here. And if I change that to 200, the wand will double in size. And they're suggesting that we so what we're going to do now is we're going to look at the costumes on the wand, and this wand is made up of 2 or 3 different pieces, and we're going to just make it tilted over a little bit. So if I select all of that, dragging and clicking over, I've got a little down the bottom here I've got a rotation button that allows me to turn the wand at a little bit of an angle and move the wand so that its tip is just away from the center. Okay, I think I've just probably done that, haven't I? It's just a little bit away from the center. They seem to have gone for a bigger angle, so let's just go for it like that. Okay, press green flag, and I think that seems to be what we're doing. Because I've got that code on here now about always following the mouse, it will always follow the mouse. So I might turn that off if that gets really annoying. They're telling you now about remixing your project, which we've already done. Now we're going to have a look at the shrink spell. So now we're going to get the code. So to get the fairy to shrink when you click on the shrink button. Click on the shrink sprite, so that's this one here, and we're going to add some code that says when this sprite is clicked, broadcast a message, and broadcast is in that same control block, events block, and we'll just give it a proper name for a message, and we're going to call this shrink. So what that does is whenever I click on the shrink button, it's going to send a message to the whole of the project to say shrink. And what we need to do is we need to program something to do something when it receives shrink. So that something's going to be the fairy. So let's click on the fairy now, and we need to bring in a block in here that when I receive shrink, that's that one there, change size by -10. So under looks, we're going to pick up the change size, and we just need to put a minus sign in that, because normally these would make without the minus sign it makes them go bigger. So minus sign means go smaller, and I can test this by just clicking on the block there, and you can see that she's shrinking. Now there is a problem now because we don't have a way of making it go bigger. So what I'm going to do is, and actually it's as per their instructions, that we're going to add some more code into the sprite, that when the green flag is clicked, set the size to 100%. So it's kind of like a reset button process. So the next part of our code here is that we want to program the game so that when the wand receives the shrink message, it plays a sound. So we're going to click on the wand, and we're going to click on the events, and when I receive shrink, we're going to play the shrink sound. And the way we can do that is we're going to use the slide whistle sound. So there's a tab here with sounds on, and there's a whole load of sounds in here, but I'm just going to go in here and let's look for slide whistle. There it is. Let's have a little listen. Okay, so that's the sound they want us to use. And having imported that sound whistle to our project, we go back to the code. Sorry, no, we go back to sounds. And now we're going to go back to the code, and we click on the sound button, and we want play the slide whistle. Oh, they're telling us we can rename it. So yes, we can rename it. In here, I can just change this to be, oh no, I can change the slide whistle to be shrink. I don't like to have variables and things all the same name, so I'm just going to call that shrink sound. Just me being a bit fussy. And then go back to my code, and now you can see that the play shrink sound is until done is clicked. So when I click on shrink now, we're getting that noise. Press stop, press green flag. So I'm trying to play this game now, and I can't play it because I can't actually click on the shrink button because the wand is in the way. So perhaps I understand what they were meaning by the wand now. So let me just go back to my wand and go to the costumes, and I want to arrange it so that, oops, Control A to select everything. Control A to select everything, and then I'm going to click and just drag that out of the way, because I need to be able to see that that dot there, which is the which is where the action will take place. So now I hope if I press stop now and run, I can now see the shrink button, but I've still got my wand. Okay. So the shrink button broadcasts the shrink button broadcast a shrink message. Both the fairy and the wand sprite received the message and responded. So just to remind ourselves, when I press the shrink button, that sends this message shrink, and the fairy is coded that when she receives shrink, she reduces her size by 10, and the wand does something different, that when it receives shrink, it plays the shrink sound until it's completed. And we've coded it so that when the green flag is pressed, everything goes back to the original size. Save your project. Right, now we're going to do the opposite of that for the grow. And so let's click on the grow button, and that when this sprite is clicked, broadcast message, new message, grow. Oops, grow. And then we're going to go back to our fairy, and when it receives grow, we're going to change the size by 10. So what I can do is I can right click on this block here, duplicate it, pop that down there. Grow is now in that list of messages that's possible, and I can change that to just 10 and test that as we go along. So grow and shrink. Cool. So we can reverse the shrink sound to make it sound like a grow sound. So let's go to the wand sprite and click sprites, sounds. And we're going to duplicate our shrink sound. Let's call that grow sound. And there's a little button over here that says reverse. Feel free to see what the other ones do. And if there's any of those there that you like better than the reverse one, feel free to use them. But I'm just going to follow their instructions and use the sorry, wrong button. I'm going to use the reverse, and perhaps just make that a bit louder so it's the same as the other one. Here we go. And then I need to code my wand now. So go to the code tab, and I can duplicate that block. I can change that to grow, change that to grow sound, and now press stop and run, and shrink and grow. Works the way that it's meant to work. Save my project. Transforming into toads now. So now it's time for another spell. This time we're going to cast a transformation spell by broadcasting a toad message. And we're going to turn our fairy into a toad when the toad button is pressed. So let's click on the toad sprite, and we want when this sprite is clicked, and we want the broadcast button, and we're going to go for another new message, and we're going to call it toad. And the way this is going to work is that when the fairy receives the message toad, so when I receive, so I've clicked the fairy, and when I receive toad, I need to switch costume. I'm going to set my size to 100%, and I'm going to switch to costume fairy A. Costume fairy A is okay. So we're going to code for when the toad is broadcast, but we're also going to make sure that when the game starts that we get the fairy starting. So under our reset process, when the green flag is clicked, we're going to switch to costume Fairy A. And then when the Toad message is received, we're going to call it Fairy Toad A. Fairy Toad A. So let's just do a reset. So that's what happens when Toad is broadcast. And we're going to add a Croak to the wand sprite. So go back to the wand and duplicate that. When I receive Toad, we need to add the Croak sound to the wand. Can we? Is there a Croak sound? Let's have a look. Croak. Oh yeah, there is. So we're going to add that into our project. Having added that into our project, when I receive Toad, make the Croak sound. Not quite sure that's covered in the instructions there, is it? Okay. We have a project that if you click on Toad, it makes a Croak sound. Press the green flag, everything goes back to normal size. We can shrink and grow, and we can turn to a Toad. And the last thing to do is the untoad. So that's the opposite. That's kind of like a reset process, really, isn't it? So untoad, we want an event when this sprite is clicked, broadcast message, new message, untoad. Okay. And then back to our fairy sprite. Duplicate that one there. When I receive untoad, change costume to Fairy A. And we're going to do a reverse croak, is that right? Sounds like we're going to do a reverse croak. So again, go to our sounds. Oops. Go to our wand first of all. Go to sounds. Let's duplicate croak. Let's reverse it. Let's call that reverse croak. Does that sound like? Oh, can't spell. Croak. I don't know why when they get duplicated the sound gets quieter. So that's about how fat. I need like a finger width fatness there. So I go louder here. Louder, 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 louder. Oh, I can hear that now, so that's about the same sound volume. Okay, so now I've got okay. Might need a little bit of tinkering there. Looks like there might be a little bit of a technical problem there, but anyway, you're making a sound that you can apply to the untoad. Let's save now. Let's press our green flag, and that should return our fairy. Let's toad her. Yep, untoad her. Grow, 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 grow. How big can she go? Okay, that's quite big. And then shrink. I press the stop button and then the green flag, and she's back to normal size. Save my project. Now the next thing we've got to do is going to add another sprite on. So if we so let's see what the instructions tell us. Get a sprite of your choice to respond to the spells. You'll need to create a Toad costume mashup for this sprite. So duplicate the fairy sprite. Click on the fairy sprite, right click, duplicate, and delete the fairy A and the fairy Toad A costumes from the second one. So let's just rename this one my sprite so we don't get confused. And that's changed down there. Go to the costumes, and they tell us to get rid of fairy A and Toad A. So get rid of those two. Oh, I can see what we're doing here. And add a costume of your choice to the new sprite. They chose the batter. So having got my costumes down here, I can use this button here to choose a costume. And the one they've used, let's just have a look, see what batter looks like. They've used batter. Oh, it looks like they've pinched bits from it, doesn't it? So if I click on the helmet there and do Control C, I think I go to Toad and then do Control V, I get the helmet back. If I want to swap it the other way, I can just drag it across and pop that on Frog's head. Let's see what else Batter has got. Oh, she's got a belt. Oh, let's see if we can't take the baseball bat as well, shall we? Let's do. So I'm clicking on different elements of this sprite here. I'm doing. I'm pressing down and holding down the Control key, and I'm pressing C for copy. Actually, there's a button up here that does that as well. So I like to use keyboard shortcuts, but there's a button at the top there that allows you to copy something. Go back to Toad, click on here, and then if I press paste, the baseball bat has now appeared in my for my costume. So I can then add that to him. Let's go and grab one other thing. Let's go get something from something else, shall we? I don't know what else is here. Weird. Strange. Oh, that looks nice. Let's have a. I'd like to take the top of the strawberry. So let's click on strawberry. If I click on the top there, I'm going to use copy. Come back to my Toad. I'm going to do paste, and I'm going to stick that on his back. Okay, I can get rid of these two because that's the one I really want, but I need to also have another costume for the main sprite. So I want to oh, they've just shown you everything I've done there. If things are facing the wrong direction, you can flip them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add another costume. So this will be my main character. And oh, is there a kangaroo there? No. Muffin. Oh, let's have a look down. There's a funny thing called eggs, I think. Oh, why don't we have a dinosaur? Let's have a dinosaur. And so let's make dinosaur our main character. And we can call that, let's call it Blob. And let's call this one Blob Weird. Okay, as my character's facing the right direction, so let's just have a look. Right, so my dinosaur's a bit too low down the page now. So if I come on this part of the page on the screen here and just select everything and then drag it up, so it's kind of like on the same level as the sprite. That's a good position. And then this will be the second costume. So you can do anything you like there. So it doesn't have to be silly characters. It can be whatever you like. If I wanted to change the color of his body, there we go. He's a little bit excited. And if I wanted to make him a little bit bigger, I grab around everything and then use the drag handles in the corner. He becomes kind of like a bit more like the same size as the fairy. Now then, because we duplicated our fairy sprite, all the code that was on the fairy sprite has been copied to my sprite. So if I make this big and I press the shrink button, they're both shrinking. If I press the grow one, they're both growing. If I press the toad, that didn't work. So there's something wrong with the toad button for my second sprite, and that's probably because I changed the names of things. So let's have a look. So it's around about a toad, isn't it? So my sprite here has got called Blob and Blob Weird, and because I copied the code, it just kept the fairy toad. So making sure I've got my sprite clicked. When I receive toad, I'm going to go to Bob Weird, and when I receive untoad, I'm going to go to Blob, and I need to change this one here so it stops off as Blob. Right, let's make it big. Toad, untoad, grow, shrink, and that's our project completed. And I'll put my link into the instructions so you can see it. And don't forget to save. And there's a reflection thing on here, some things to think about and some questions to answer. I'll invite you to have a go at doing those. Okay, that's today's little project. It's making a sprite grow and shrink and turn into a toad and then untoad it. I hope you did well on the quiz, and look forward to sharing the next project with you, which is making a dragonfly, grow a dragonfly. Okay, bye.